Hey guys, the next thing we're going to learn about in theater has to do with pantomime. It is important that you have your notebooks out so that you could take notes on this. And you will at some point be asked to go back to the Canvas assignment that had this video in it because there's a different video. I can't embed a video and watch a video while I'm doing a video. It's too many videos. So there you go. All right. So first of all, you need to know that pantomime is interacting with imaginary people, places, and things. Now, for sure, after a certain age, we just don't think that's possible, really. But in theater, we do it all of the time. You need to ask yourself some questions. What does it mean to interact with something that's not really there? And how do we even start to think about being able to do this? Is it possible to do that? And so, this is the part where now you're going to need to stop this video. This is a video made by a character called Mr. Bean. He is from the UK, and it is called The Invisible Drum. So stop the video and see what you think. Ask yourself, was he able to interact with invisible people, places, and things? How did he make them real for us? And what is it about his performance that made it easy to understand? All right, so stop the video and we'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, you're back. Woohoo! Or at least you should be back after watching the video. If you didn't watch the video, this won't make much sense. So I need you to take a couple of seconds. In your notebook, I need you to answer these questions. What did Mr. Bean, the actor who plays Mr. Bean, what did he do and how did he act non-verbally in that scene? Now, I know there was sound that went with it that did make understanding the video easier, but how did he act in there? Also, how did he show that he was interacting with imaginary things? What did he do? What care did he take to show the audience these things? And what was it that made this scene so effective? You need to stop the video for a little bit and take some time to write these down in your notebook. So quite possibly this is taking place on the 29th of September, but if you took too long on the first activity you had to do on Monday, then you won't have gotten to it until the 30th. So make sure you have the correct date. Remember that a pantomime is a story communicated without words, but using body movement and facial expression. Hey, you're back again. So, there are things that hopefully you were able to see and describe in your journal. And we're going to try to give a basic description of this. And then when I get back on Wednesday, we'll talk even more about what your personal reactions to that Mr. Bean video were. So save them for sure. When we talk about making the invisible visible, we need to remember a couple of things. Real things take up space and have weight. And so if you are going to use imaginary objects in your acting, you have to give space to that imaginary object. Also, whenever you are doing these movements, you need to do them slowly, slower than would be normal for the movement. So if I normally pick up something and then move it really, really fast, people may not be able to tell. If I could pick it up and then move it slowly, people will be able to follow it easier. This is important because it's the only cue you get to what's going on the stage. And so we don't mind that your actions are slightly slower than they need to be. One of the things you can do is start to observe what your regular everyday movements are and how you interact with real objects in reality. So, observe what you do, see what you can do to practice that. So like, this is my phone. I'm holding it. It's about this big. All right. If I were to put this down and pretend to pick it up, it would have to retain the same shape, and I would have to interact with it much in the same way I normally do. All right. And then I would put it away. So, it is important that you remember whenever you're doing pantomime, everything, and even more than you think you need to show, has to be shared with the audience. It's like you have to let the audience in on the secret. Every little thing has to be accounted for. So don't hide. You have to face the audience. When we do our first simple movements, some people try to do things from the side. That makes it so nobody can see what you're doing. So you have to rearrange your space so everything is going to be out front. That may not be like it is in reality, but reality and pantomime don't necessarily go together. Now, there is a point in time when I have an object and I go to meet it with my hand and I put my hand on it and actually touch it. That is called the click. So when I do that, I have a click motion. And I'll be able to show you this more when I'm in front of you. On a video where there's a yellow background and there are words on my head, I don't know that you'll be able to see it very much. But that click is when your hand interacts with the weight of the object and you definitely have control over it. So these are the things that you need. Write them down. You need space. You got to go slow. You need to observe and practice how you really react with real things in reality. And you need to never hide anything from the audience and make sure you show the click. All right. Also, when we are taking a look at pantomime, there are things you have to do. Every movement needs to be consistent. Everything needs to be consistent. If my phone is this size once, it can't then morph to this size or change phones entirely and become a handheld top instead of a flat phone. You have to keep the same size for the object the entire time. This is really tricky if you're working with like horizontal spaces, like you're trying to make a sandwich, which is a very good simple action to try to pantomime. If the table is one height here and then the next time you go to interact it's taller or shorter, or all of a sudden you start to walk through it, there's no consistency and that's confusing. You need to have exaggerated resistance. This is another way of just saying you need to go slow. You need to make the movement definite and you need to move it slowly, and then it's got to be bigger and larger than life so that people can tell what's going on. Exaggerated facial expression and gesture. Whenever we do something, we see the reaction of our face first and then the rest of us, because our brain gets the stimulus, our brain reacts, our face is closer, and then the rest of us reacts. So the exaggerated facial expression and gesture makes pantomime slightly fantastical. And if we were to have speaking with it, it would be so big and it would be just laughable and wouldn't be something that would make sense. But without any words, pantomime that's bigger than life seems just about right. All right, now we've got to talk about how to tell a story. We have talked about this basically as being that every story has a beginning, middle, and an end, but you need to be able to make sure you know. In the beginning, we're being introduced to the character or characters, the space that we're at, and the relationship between any of those characters. In the middle, there's always conflict, something that needs to be solved, some problem that comes up that needs to be dealt with. And the end has the resolution of that conflict. And then, we ride off into the sunset. Every story has those parts. When you do pantomime, you have to include all of that. Please remember that any story you tell, especially ones without sound and only motion, need to be simple. We will be doing simple actions first, things like brushing your teeth, doing your hair, eating a bowl of cereal. If you get too complex, like we're going to start here and then we're going to go to another location and then we're going to do this, it gets too complex and nobody can follow it. It needs to be fantastic. Not just that your acting is great, but it also needs to be fantastical, like just a little bit more exaggerated than reality. Pantomime does not have to follow the regular reality rules. They need to follow rules like, unless you're on the moon, which you could be in pantomime, unless you're on the moon, you got to still follow all the rules of gravity. Those things need to be real. but your story, your reactions, your movements have to be larger than life. Remember, in pantomime, you cannot do any speaking, you cannot make any sound, and you cannot mouth words. You can use one chair or actor's block. And usually, if you take pantomime to a festival or a competition, it needs to be backed by music that doesn't have words. Now, we won't get that intense this year, but that's just so you know what it's going to look like. Now, some cues about body language, and you will need to write these down. Your chest, your core is the key to all of your action. We move from the center out. And if you just start being hands and arms moving, then we can't follow what happens. It starts center, it moves out through my. Remember, whenever you do pantomime, you want to have your hair tied back if it's long like mine. And if you have long sleeves, you usually want to pull them up so we can see the most expressive part for at least for showing us direction, which is your wrist. All movement comes from your wrist, and that is where all hand gestures start. Please, the minute you want to use an arm, you're going to have to move your elbow out away from your body. Because that will make it automatically bigger. It will open everything up and it won't hide things. If your arms are too close to your body, then you can't show anything. Opposite actions emphasize physical movement. So I'm sitting right now. If I was going to get up, I wouldn't just get up. I'd go down in my seat first and then go up if I were pantomiming it, because it's bigger. Now, arms and hands also move in circular motion. We don't just move like straight on like this unless we're trying to be robotic. Circular motions are natural. Facial expression always happens before other physical actions, so remember that. Using your upstage hand or arm when you walk, when you're walking your upstage leg. Upstage makes it so you're not going to accidentally block yourself. All right. Exaggeration of your movement. I know I have said it like 17 million times, but this is the one thing beginners don't do. They go too fast and they don't exaggerate enough. You have to share everything, all of your actions, all of your reactions, all of your expression, all of the emotional content on your face. Actions need to be definite in concept and execution, and they must be clearly motivated. Okay, we're going to practice, but not till tomorrow. You will be divided into groups, and then you will have one object. And it's important that with that object, you pass it around and start to see how you interact with it. And then when you pass it around, when you pass the actual object over, you need to pick up that same object, but in pantomime form. You need to be able to do this for the people in your group. They will have intimate knowledge of the object because you are all using the same object, and that will help you guys to give each other clues about what looks real and what doesn't look real. All right. If you have time in class, you can show each of the groups what they've been working on with the other groups. And we will do more of this when I get back. Now, for sure, we will do pantomime performances, but I am not going to talk about these until till I get back. One will be a solo performance, and then the other one will be a small group performance. So you'll just need to be ready for that. So have fun. Good luck.